How are you doing today, Amy?
Good. How are you doing today?
Good. Today, you all can ask Amy anything, whatever you want to ask her. But also, I'm going to put Amy on the spot. She hates being put on the spot. I'm going to ask her, how do you have a happy relationship? Are you happy enough in this relationship? I don't know. I guess that's the first question. Are you happy enough in your relationship?
Yeah, I would think you'd want to hold off that kind of question until we have enough people signed in. Seems like it's going to be pretty anticlimactic for people who come in a few minutes. But
fine. Let's talk about something else. Yes. Let's talk about something else instead. We're going to pause that. Well,
no,
we will
late,
ask that once people
late.
are here. No,
the answer
think
is
about
yes.
it. Okay, fine. You're happy enough with the relationship. We will then ask, how do you be happy with a relationship? How was it cutting your kid's hair for the first time? And if anyone out there has any hair cutting experience, please let Amy know because our kids look a little funny.
It was okay. I tried to take it like little piece by little piece, like how I've watched people cut hair for a long time, but I definitely didn't do it right. I definitely didn't do it well. I think I trimmed enough to hopefully last them, another month until we'll have to do it again. But they'll need a barber at some point. It's better than we thought we might have to shave the kids' heads, and that's what we were trying to avoid. So we were able to avoid that, which was good.
Andrea says, so out of focus this AM. Does that mean our camera's out of focus? I don't think it is. I think it looks okay.
We'll see if anyone else says the same thing.
You guys don't have a hair trimmer? We did have like a little... No, basically the answer is no. We use scissors. So, if you all have any questions for Amy, please let her know. We have her here for one more day. Our kids are with their grandparents at the moment. I was reading, a few people left comments, they would never be able to send their kids to their grandparents because of the virus. Were you concerned about that at all?
Someone sent you comments on that?
A few people.
Oh.
Mainly people in Europe. They said apparently in Europe you cannot send your kids to the grandparents.
So, yeah. So, obviously it's a very tough situation. In our situation... We, my parents live close by. They're also self-isolating. We've been staying in touch constantly regarding how we're all feeling. And they're here generally every week for several days, every week, either helping with the kids or, overnight or coming for a nighttime routine and putting them to bed. So, part of our feeling was that if we had it, chances were the short answer is it's really a tough call, okay? The short answer is it's really a tough call. And we were trying to be smart about it, and we're constantly checking in with each other. There was a period of time where James got sick.
He had a bit of a fever for a few days.
A few weeks ago. And my mom and my dad had been with us the day before he woke up with the fever. My mom had been with us the day before. My dad and mom had been with us 2 days before. And neither of them got sick or ended up having any symptoms. But because James did have a fever, the four of us, so me, John, Thomas, and James, stayed inside, self-isolated, and kept my parents away for about 2 weeks. Because since we don't know if it could have been COVID, we had to assume it was COVID. Once the 2 weeks was over, everyone was feeling fine. I mean, after James's fever went away, no one else got sick, no one else had symptoms. We let 2 weeks pass, which is what the pediatrician said would be the longer end of how long it takes for the virus to shed off. And then we let my parents come back. And then even after they took the kids, we've been checking in, obviously, every day to make sure that everyone's feeling okay and everyone's been feeling fine.
Most people think grandparents are in their 90s. Yours are probably in their 50s. They're in their 50s and 60s.
Incorrect.
Do you know how old Amie is?
My dad turned 70 this year, so he's certainly in one of the high-risk categories. He has no underlying health issues, and is very healthy, but I obviously worry about him very much. My mom is a chunk younger than my dad, 11 years, so she'll be 60 next year. Also veering towards that, at-risk age group. but also doesn't really have underlying health issues other than back pain. So, it's a tough call. I mean, especially when you're in when you're quarantining, self-quarantining, and you're being isolated and you're not interacting, and you're used to being with your grandbabies every single week. It's a tough thing. So we didn't want to take them away from them, and but we wanted to be smart about how we did it. So we think we're doing the best we can to manage everything, and that's all we can really do.
Peter says, Amie looks 22. Not your Peter, a different Peter. Peter says, Amie looks 22.
Aww.
Oh, how nice. She's almost twice that old.
Thank you. I am 38.
Wow. You could almost be a grandparent if you tried hard enough.
I could almost be a grandparent. How old are you? Do you remember? John never remembers his age or the year he was born.
I think I'm 43.
Yeah.
No, I'm 35, I think. Amy's older than me.
You're 35. You'll be 36 at the end of this year.
What did you think when you first met me about me? You can be honest. It's okay. It's just the public and the internet, and this will be out there for forever.
Can I be honest? Because I don't think I've ever told you this.
Oh, great. Sure.
First, I thought you were nice. You were like talking to me, explaining poker to me, explaining like the tournament area to me and everything. For those who don't know, we met at a poker tournament that he was playing and that I was just walking around watching. The second thing I noticed was John has these like, what are they called, birthmarks?
I guess.
John has these like couple birthmarks on his cheek. And I guess I've just never noticed them on someone else before. And so just while he was talking, I remember noticing them on his cheek.
That's what you thought of me.
I guess that's not what I thought of you, but it's what I kind of noticed. One of the first things I noticed about you. You were very nice, and I noticed the birthmarks on your cheek. I didn't think bad or good about them. I just noticed them. I remember noticing them.
It's important to stand out a little bit when you're trying to meet women. Whatever you can do to make yourself stand out from the crowd is probably better than
they must
nothing
be fake,
else.
Right? They're removable?
Okay, so what is the secret to having a good, happy relationship? Most people have problems having good, happy relationships. Why have your previous relationships failed, yet this one has flourished and thrived? Why am I so much better than your previous boyfriends?
If I answer, then are you going to answer about yours?
Sure.
Because that doesn't seem like a fair question to ask me.
Sure. No one said we have to be fair here.
Previous relationships fail. So without going into any individual relationship, because that wouldn't be fair to anyone, I think overall, the reason why our relationship does well in comparison, hey, there's someone named Greg Broder who joined.
Greg Broder.
My last name is Broder, so same but without the U at the end. I think first of all, we are entirely ourselves. Like, I've never tried to pretend to... Actually, there's one exception to this statement, and I'll explain what that was. I've never tried to be someone different in front of you. I've always been entirely myself. I think I have a genuine affection and attraction to you that just keeps me really happy and excited whenever I get to be with you. And I think we support each other equally. And so, I don't know that all of those things together were always in all of my prior relationships. And I also think I was younger and had more growing up to do in some of them. So, how about you?
Well, I've always been awesome. My relationships have never failed because of me. And
I had an exception. I didn't. Sorry. So the exception to always being myself around you is that there was a period of time where I was in the very beginning where I was unsure of whether or not we should like be together, and I was kind of agitated and just not very like warm and open towards you, and you broke up with me. And then it
wasn't my fault.
And then we got back together. And I think because I was worried that you would just like dump me again, I think I was just like overly nice and like overly, like I would try to like not say anything negative ever. I would never like comment on anything. I especially wouldn't try to like argue with you if you were traveling for a poker tournament. And for that period of time, I felt like I couldn't always be myself because I was very nervous about what your reaction would be. But I think that was part of us finding our rhythm, and everything was fine after that. Sorry. Okay, so that was the end of my answer.
What's today's topic? We're talking about whatever we'd like to talk about today. So feel free to chat with us. All right, you want to take somebody else's question?
No, you were going to say what failed in your relationships.
No, so I think I only had one other very serious relationship. I was engaged before I met Amie, and that fell apart. And I think it is because you want both people in the relationship to have things going on in their life that they care about that is perhaps separate from the other person, right? You don't want to be the person that the other person is relying on, I think is what it amounts to, like overly relying on. Like if you are perhaps the only person that makes money and the other person only wants to hang out with you all the time, it becomes a bit much. I think you need both people in the relationship, at least for my mindset, my brain, to have lots of ambition themselves. And after that previous relationship, I kind of made a point to accept that whoever I date in the future is going to be having their own life to some extent. I mean, do you agree? Do you agree with that, or do you think that's a bad statement?
No, I agree.
Because I mean, there are plenty of relationships out there that work where it's the exact opposite, and that's okay, right? But I think for me, I would like my partner to have ambition and want to do well at whatever they are doing, as opposed to just kind of hang out. I think there are a lot of people out there who just want to hang out, and there's nothing wrong with just hanging out. But I don't want someone who just wants to hang out. I want someone who wants to build things, work together, and do great work in whatever they are doing in life and whatever they think is important in life. It doesn't have to be what I think is important. It's whatever they think is important. That sound reasonable?
Yeah.
I said with unlimited time, I would love to learn Chinese. How's that going? Oh, I don't have unlimited time. I have no time. I have not learned Chinese at all. Amie, what would you learn if you had unlimited time?
What would I learn?
What would you do if you had unlimited... maybe not even learn. What would you do if you had unlimited time? I guess that means you have unlimited time, and I guess you have plenty of money.
So I would want to finally learn how to do a handstand because I can't believe I never figured out how to do that.
I can teach you how to do that.
I know, but I was trying to learn, and it was a lot harder than I thought. And it was just, anyway. So I'd like to do that. I'd like to learn to juggle because John learned how to juggle really fast. I basically would like to learn how to do all the things that Jonathan managed to learn how to do and uses as a way to entertain our kids. And I feel like I would like to be able to do the same thing. So he taught himself to juggle, to play the ukulele, to do handstands. Well, that he taught himself before we had kids. And I've tried to do all of those things and have been hugely unsuccessful. I'm sure I could think of a much more important substantive answer to that question, but that's what immediately comes to mind.
You want to be the fun one for the kids.
I don't want to be the fun one, but I think I am fun with the kids, but I would like to. I don't know why it's so much harder for me to learn those things than for you.
You want me to tell you why?
Well,
I know the answer.
Two things. One is you practice an insane amount and you become obsessed with it. But two is also I'm just not as good and coordinated with my hands as you are.
You want to know why that is?
Well, I took that aptitude test that told me I should never do anything with my hands.
It's because I'm obsessive and I practice an insane amount and you don't.
Right.
If you practiced as much as I did, you would probably be able to do it equally well.
Yeah, probably.
So, I mean, I'll tell you what I did. When I wanted to learn a handstand, I remember I was rooming with Shannon Shore in Paris for a poker tournament. And I decided for some reason I wanted to do a handstand. I was reading this book called Convict Conditioning that would teach you how to train like a prisoner in a cell with no exercise equipment. Because, when you're traveling to poker tournaments in a hotel room, it's kind of like you're in a prison cell. And so
not really. I wouldn't make a comparison.
So anyway, I wanted to be able to work out while I was in my prison cell, and so I would learn to do back bends. I can do back bend and come back up. I don't know if I can do that anymore. You do push-ups, you do pull-ups over doors, and handstand push-ups are one of the things. They'll work out your shoulders really well. And I couldn't do it, so I decided to get good at doing handstands. That was the sort of something I did. So every time I would have a break during a poker tournament. So like online, every hour I would get there and I'd do a handstand for 2 minutes or whatever. Every time I was in the elevator waiting for the elevator to come, I would do handstands. So I would practice it a lot. When I was in the gym, I would focus on it. I would practice it, right? And if you practice it a ton, it'll come to you. And if you don't practice it, it won't. Kind of like juggling, right? I was sitting around playing with James when he was 3 months old or something, and I realized we had these 3 balls. I'm like, oh, let's learn to juggle these balls. So I couldn't do it at all when I first started. But take 1 ball, throw it, catch it. Take 1 ball, throw it back and forth. Then you do 2. Then you do 3. And you just have to practice it a ton. This really is the answer, is practice an insane amount and don't get frustrated. I think a lot of people, when they practice and they fail a little bit, they get frustrated. I'm not saying that's you, but if you get frustrated easily, things that are based on repetition are going to take you very, very long to fully learn. Whereas if you just realize you're going to fail a whole lot until you get it, then you'll be okay. What was the other thing? Juggling and handstand. Ukulele, yeah. We bought this fake ukulele for James. I mean, it works. It actually functions, but it's not a particularly great one. But James loves it. James loved it. Loved it.
He doesn't. I haven't seen him pull it out in a really long time. I think we should attempt to give it to Thomas, but I guarantee as soon as we give it to Thomas, James is going to want it back.
Well, I learned to play the ukulele so well that I bought my own. So we have 2 ukuleles around the house. And because James would always want to take it when I was playing it. And so every time I would just be sitting there, I'd get it out and I'd start playing, right? And then Amie tasked me to learn a song, so sure, I'll learn the song. So I learned the song to some extent. I mean, it's an easy song, but I'll learn the song.
You should play it here for the show. You should go get your ukulele and play it.
I'm sure the ukulele's way out of tune, and I'm sure I can't remember it on the spot.
Aw, come on. Wouldn't everyone like to see John play the ukulele on the show?
Someone remind me next time and I'll do it.
I won't be here next time.
That's okay. You'll be all right. Let's see. Whenever I have a big score, I'll buy you a nice gift.
No. I'm
not trying to spend my bankroll. Everyone knows don't spend your bankroll. If you spend your bankroll, it's how you go broke. What inspired you to become an attorney and focus on tax law?
Two separate questions. One, I just had wanted to be a lawyer since I was a little kid, not really sure why, and it just had always been stuck in my head. That's what I wanted to do. My parents can attest to that I said it since I was like elementary or junior high school. I said I either wanted to be a lawyer or a professor. And luckily, being a lawyer is kind of like being a professor because you're constantly explaining concepts to other people, which so you do get to do some teaching and education. Tax law, I fell into completely accidentally. I always assumed I'd be a litigator just because that's what I had thought being a lawyer was. So that's what I went to law school assuming I would do. And when I was doing a summer associate program at a law firm during law school, so a summer internship at a law firm while I was in law school, I had met a couple of attorneys at the firm who told me to just, you had to rank what departments you wanted to get work from. So they said, well, don't just put all of your interests down for litigation. Go ahead and put like some level, they were from the tax group, and they said, go ahead, put down like some level of tax interest so we can get some assignments to you so you can see what we do. I said sure. I had no idea what would be involved, so I think I put like 80% interest in litigation, maybe 15 in corporate, 5 in tax, something like that. I ended up sitting on the same floor as the head of the tax department at the time, who became just an ongoing mentor to me and life mentor, and we're still in touch even though he retired like 10 years ago. And I just really enjoyed the work. I thought it was really interesting, really substantive. I thought I was, you're getting on client calls right away, digging into the code, researching things, understanding things, explaining things to a client. Whereas the litigation assignment I had been given was basically document review for a large antitrust case that the firm had taken on, which effectively entailed me sitting at a computer for 8 hours a day, clicking a button as to whether or not a document put in front of me was responsive or non-responsive. Basically, it was just not as meaty and interesting as the tax assignments I was getting. So I got an offer from the tax department to join them because you needed to get a separate offer from that group since it was a specialist group. And I accepted, and that was it. I will tell you my worst grades in law school were my tax classes, though.
So basically you're saying your grades don't matter.
For me, and everyone is different. For me, I did much better seeing. I didn't do as well in law school on rule-based classes where you're just reading the rule and needing to regurgitate the rule back. I did much better in actually practicing, seeing the deals live, understanding why all of these concepts exist, and being able to put it together in real time. So I excelled when I started practicing in spite of what my grades might have indicated.
All right,
Same
good.
thing in college.
We have Uncle Eddie here, the mayor of Brooklyn. Good morning, good morning.
Good morning, Uncle Eddie. He's effectively another parent to us and just my dad's best friend. He was also the officiant at our wedding, and just he's one of the most amazing people anyone will ever meet in their lifetime. So.
And he's the mayor of Brooklyn.
And of course. And his whole family is amazing. His wife Lori's amazing, his kids are amazing, his son Michael is staying with them right now during this period. Hi Michael, we love you.
Is he the mayor of Long Island now? Or still Brooklyn?
He'll probably be mayor of Brooklyn in perpetuity.
Awesome. Hello, Uncle Eddie. Good morning. Christine says John should play the trumpet now. I'm not going to play the trumpet now.
He also plays the trumpet.
James likes to try to play the trumpet. He hasn't quite figured it out yet.
He's really good at it.
Who, James?
Yeah.
What?
He's good at it. He figures out how to make sounds with the mouthpiece and everything.
James does figure stuff out. He's gonna be pretty good. Half of your income comes from rakeback. How do I feel about that? I would tell you, based on past history of what poker sites have done to rakeback, to probably not rely on that. So if half of your income is an acceptable level of income for you, then the rakeback's kind of just like a bonus, right? But if you're making, let's say, $2,000 a month from playing and $2,000 a month from rakeback, so $4,000 a month, but you need $3,000 a month to live, I'll tell you should probably try to get out of that situation, because we've seen poker stars take away rakeback. We've seen, like back in the day when you dealt with a middleman, some of the middlemen would just disappear and take your rakeback. So I would tell you to not rely on subsidies to be profitable, because the subsidies may randomly go away for whatever reasons that are completely out of your control, and then you have to figure that out. I mean, you probably deal with that to some extent, right? At work, where energy companies deal with subsidies, and subsidies go away, and it screws them to some extent.
Well, you just have to plan ahead.
You got to plan ahead, and I would tell you that if that is like your only source of income, that you should probably plan ahead to the point that you either have a backup plan or a way to minimize expenses or something like that, to where if you did lose half of your income overnight, you'd be okay.
Someone asked if I prefer panda bears or koala bears. I think the answer obviously is panda bears, though I will say I've only been able to actually hold and meet a koala bear in my life, so tempted to veer towards the koala bear side, but we'll go with panda bear.
The koala bear liked you.
I think the koala bear liked everyone.
Mike says, Amie is boosting the ratings for the show. I have to leave soon because Jonathan has to leave because the show would be better without me.
No, it's us together that boosts the ratings.
Ah, I see. A combo. There was something I wanted to ask. Oh, have I changed? How have I changed since we met?
Since we met. You dress better.
I dress better. I used to dress poorly because I had no direction and no taste. I still don't have taste, but I also don't pick my clothes anymore. Amie and her mom pick my clothes now.
My mom helps. She's amazing.
And now I'm dressed decently well. Who'd have thought? So if you're a guy out there and it seems like you're wearing nonsense clothes, you should probably hire a stylist. There are websites out there that can style you now that they'll just send you a trunk of good clothes and then you send back whatever you don't want. It'll cost a little bit more money, but you won't look like a dope. Is that right? Did I look like a dope? Is that acceptable?
You look a little bit
I look like a dope. And I agree. I definitely did.
Just like ratty, clowny t-shirts and oversized jeans and ratty sneakers. I don't know. It was just not put together.
Amie, Jonathan's favorite movie is Star Wars. What is wrong with letting the children watch Jonathan's favorite movie, Star Wars?
The problem is it's just there's a lot of violence in the movies, and so for like a very first of all, and a lot of activity, so just a lot of action on a screen. So for a baby like Thomas, I just don't want that much in front of him. I don't think it's good for his eyes. I don't think it's good for kind of how he's taking in information. And for James, he doesn't, he's mimicking everything, obviously. So he watched Star Wars one time, immediately starts, wants to fight everyone, pick up something.
Anything that is shaped like this.
Yeah.
He'll do.
And that can be really tough to kind of
and inevitably he'll pop you in the face.
And so I just thought they were too young, and especially with a baby in the room now watching the same thing on TV. I'd prefer something much more low-key, like a Sesame Street episode on than Star Wars. But, so we're trying to balance. balance the two.
It's tough because I want to show them good, fun, cultural things that I enjoy.
Which you can when they're older. I'm not saying this is a non-Star Wars house. I enjoy watching them also. I just thought he was too young. I've
kind of decided, I haven't told Amie this, but James will get to play Mario Kart for 15 minutes after he works out. And then he will get to watch Star Wars in the 30 minutes after he wakes up from his nap, before Thomas wakes up from his nap.
The problem with that is that when I'm watching the kids, he still assumes that's what he's going to get. So when he wakes up from his nap, he immediately goes to the TV now and says, can we watch Star Wars? And if I say no, let's do something else, he starts screaming and crying.
Sounds like you got to train him a little bit better.
No, sounds like you maybe need to help him understand that he doesn't get to do that every day.
You just got to be a better mom.
Yeah, that must be it.
That's a joke for everyone out there. Everyone out there does not know my personality yet. Let's see. What is the best advice you got from me when you won your charity poker tournament recently?
He didn't coach me, so I got no advice. Other than I think I have a hard time, especially when I'm like freaking out, figuring out how many big blinds I have sometimes. And so I think I would periodically ask him to double check what I thought, how many big blinds I thought I had. And so that way I would know when I needed to start going all in. But other than that, I think I would ask you about some hands after, and you would let me know if you would have done it the same way. But he was generally not giving advice or coaching. And we didn't really get to play together. They separated us on opposite sides of the room. So we were apart most of the night.
Nice. Gosh, I had something I was going to ask and I forgot. Oh, do you have plans for our children? What do you want to push them into?
I have no plans.
I have no plans as well. I was sitting there thinking, like, do I want them to go into poker or being a lawyer? Or
that's not true. We not that we have plans, but we've talked about, like, we want to make sure, like, one thing I always wish I had learned something about and didn't was coding and computer programming or like engineering. Like these are jobs that or just skills that I think are so useful in a variety of ways. And so I think it would just be, I would want them to get exposed to more technology.
Like Star Wars.
It's hard, right? Because you want them to be exposed to technology because our lives are run by technology, but at the same time mediate how much of it they're using purely for entertainment at home. So I think we talked about wanting them to like explore that, maybe do like a coding camp one summer or something like that. But other than that, I don't think we've ever. I think we talked about sports, like what sports would we want them to try? I think we said gymnastics would be fun.
Well, so I have this thought process, which could very easily be wrong, of do we want to push them to play games that they are obviously not going to be good at? Like basketball, for example. I hate to break it to my kids, they're not going to be strong basketball players. Or should I try to push them into things like...
Thomas is pretty tall for his age.
Or should we try to push them into things that they could actually have the potential to be good at? And I don't know. I don't know what the right answer to that is. I don't know. I know that me, with my obsessive personality, if I decide I love something, I'll just go all in on it. And
I think it
would be a big mistake for me to go all in on basketball. Right?
I think at their age, it won't matter as much, or like within their childhood, it won't matter as much. Certainly as adults, they're likely to be on the shorter side, so shouldn't try to play basketball professionally. But I think as like kids, that height difference or whatever won't show up as much. So I'm not as opposed to it.
If I had $2,000 and wanted to grind 10 plus tournaments every day, each week, I would just play with when you have like 100 buy-ins, so $20 games.
Oh, I saw.
I would play $20 games. Do I like the Big Bang Theory because it made you think of Star Wars? Star Wars made you think of it. Absolutely not.
He does not. I enjoy it a little bit more than he does, but we also never really fully got into it. But
I'm
John,
not a fan of annoying nerd
like
humor, and I think they use annoying nerd humor a lot, and I do not like that whatsoever.
John.
What?
We're in a closet.
I think you did. Let's see. As you were talking about kids, how do you intend to raise them? I already have 2 kids, if you don't know that, with her. And I guess I could have more in theory that I don't know about. And what is the concept of your work you want them to be familiar with? I don't know. They know Dad plays poker. They know his mom. But do they know what you do?
They know Dad play, or James knows that you play poker. I've tried to tell him what I do, but he doesn't know. He can't repeat it. Like we say, what does Daddy do for a living? You know, what does Daddy do for work? He plays poker. You know, plays a lot of poker. What does Mommy do for work? And he doesn't always have an answer. And I think that's because they see him working in the apartment on like poker webinars, poker books, and whenever he's in the room, it's always like Daddy's working, Daddy's doing poker, right? So they're used to that. But for Mommy's work, they just see that Mommy goes away every day and comes back at night. So there's no visual as to what I'm doing. So we have to more teach him teach him to repeat it as an answer until he can better understand it.
On Sunday, I was sitting here grinding like 20 tables at a time, and James walked by. He's like, "Oh, Daddy's playing a lot of poker." It was very funny to me.
Yeah, it was funny.
Does he know what it is? No, I don't think so.
No.
Let's see. What's the best way to put your girlfriend's mind at ease about the matter of playing poker for a living? I know the answer to this one.
Well, make sure that you're actually playing it responsibly and well, and it really shouldn't be any different than any other career that's based on some risks and like stock investors or something. So, you know, that's kind of, I think it's always a matter of, you know, part of it's education, like understanding it's not just like some random game you're playing or some random game of luck or chance that you're playing. So part of it is probably educating her on how much skill is required to do well in the game, and part of it is also on you, frankly, to make sure that you're doing it in a way that's respectable. You know, are you taking it seriously as a job, or are you making it seem like it's something you're just doing as a hobby or for fun? Yeah.
I would tell you to make sure you're winning a bunch of money.
Well,
ideally, way more than you could from a job. And that is relative to a lot of people, right? Like if your job that you could realistically get makes $10 an hour, but you can make $40 an hour from poker, and you do that consistently in your spare time while you still have a job.
That's not the only answer, though, because you could probably make more money selling drugs, too. That doesn't mean it should put someone's mind at ease.
Sure, but that wasn't the end of it. I was also going to say, make sure you're making more money and also have a lot of money set aside that your significant other knows will take care of all of the bills, just in case you do poorly. And also, education, like you said. Make sure they are fully educated, and that really is up to you to some extent. Well, we have two questions. How did I propose, and what happened after I broke up with you? Which one do you want to talk about first?
We broke up for a day. And I deserved it.
It was tough, because like I was traveling a lot back then, and why would you want to be in a long-distance relationship with a poker player who, you know, probably doesn't fit the regular stereotype of a good potential mate?
I was just being closed off and nasty, and, you know, I wasn't sure if it could really ever be anything real, or if it was just like something annoying that was just being used to kind of pass the time until I found someone in New York who was like a more kind of quote acceptable version of what like a boyfriend should be or a partner should be. I don't know. It was like, just wasn't in the right headspace, and I was being really closed off and nasty. So he understandably broke up with me over the phone while he was at a poker tournament.
I was tired of the nonsense.
He was tired of the nonsense, and I deserved it. And I think I immediately felt really horrible. And part of it, I don't think I ever told you this either. Part of it was that I felt bad because I did like you. Part of it was that I was embarrassed that my behavior had gotten so bad that it warranted being broken up with. So I think part of kind of reaching out to you and asking you to reconsider was almost like a face-saving measure. You know, I felt really crummy that I had done, not that I really had done anything egregious, but I just wasn't being like a nice girlfriend type person. I was being just closed off, really short on our phone calls. And anyway, but I did also like you. So I think we were still kind of chatting a little bit. And then, I mean, within a day we were back together. And then things were better. And, you know, one of the issues was we weren't really sure whether we were boyfriend and girlfriend. And so one of the conditions you said to me when we got back together was, if we get back together, we are boyfriend and girlfriend. Like, there is no ambiguity. Don't pretend I, like, don't exist. You know, and I said, yes, okay. And that was it. How did you propose? You proposed at home after I came home from work one day. You had made me dinner. And there was champagne and flowers, and I came in to the apartment we were living in together, and as I was taking off my coat and turned around to see you, you were down on one knee and proposed.
And I made a nice dinner.
Oh, it was wonderful.
Do you think it would be smart to take your girlfriend with you to a poker tournament for, let's say, 5 days while you go and grind poker all day?
I think it depends where it is. You know, part of the problem is that when you're playing poker, you're not with the other person. And so it has to be somewhere where the other person can really just take care of themselves and enjoy themselves. So, you know, I've gone with Jonathan to a couple tournaments, like to Borgata, you know, but, you know, there really isn't much to do there. So after like a day or two, I'm already kind of bored and go home, which is actually what we do, because the Borgata tournament is usually the same weekend as a Giants home game. So usually I go on like Friday or Saturday with you, and then we walk around, we meet for dinner breaks, have nice dinners. I sometimes go to the spa, but I think their spa is overpriced and not great either. And then Sunday, I go and I meet my dad and we go to the Giants game. So, and that's about as much time as I need there. I haven't really gone to, Bahamas, I've gone to with you.
I don't know if you've ever gone on a like long poker trip with me, have you?
No.
And... No. I think where this question comes from is essentially you'll see some people with their significant others just like railing them the whole time they're playing poker. And do you think that'd be boring?
Well, I followed you to Foxwoods a couple times and Borgata, and even in Vegas, I came and watched you.
But were you bored while you were sitting there watching?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, there's not really anything for you to do, so I usually bring a book and sit up against the wall until there's a break and he comes and says hi to me.
Is that your ideal vacation?
No.
No.
And even if it was somewhere amazing like Paris, I don't really want to be there by myself either. I mean, like first world problems, right? Having to be in Paris by yourself, but you know, if I'm gonna go somewhere and experience something, I would have wanted to do it with him as opposed to wandering around by myself. Unless it was somewhere that I like really, really wanted to be. I mean, we met in Australia that one time, but that was like after. We've
met a lot after or before poker.
Yeah, like we would take advantage of where he already was to make a vacation out of it after the tournament was done. So we did that, for example, with Australia, where, I mean, if you're going to travel that far, you might as well do something fun with it. So he went for a tournament. I met him with a girlfriend of mine. We met him there like a week or two later when the tournament was wrapping up. And then we did like a 2-week trip around Australia together. That was awesome.
Who's your favorite Giant player of all time? Quick answer.
So there are a few answers to that. So my dad's is probably Phil Simms.
That's not what he asked.
I wear a Strahan jersey. I like defensive players. So Strahan is kind of who I grew up admiring and enjoying to watch on the field. There's a bunch of others also. I mean, I used to be a really big Lawrence Taylor fan. My brother and I had this VHS tape of like, I guess it was like not a documentary about him, but it was about him, and it had clips of interviews with him and clips of his career, and we would watch it just over and over in our VCR growing up. But you know, for obvious reasons, it's hard to kind of remain a fan of him in all aspects of his life. But, you know, also another fantastic player. But I wear a Strahan jersey, so that's kind of who I've always supported and loved. And my dad wears a Phil Simms jersey and has always been a big Phil Simms fan.
Capone says essentially you would not want to take your girlfriend to a trip with you because, like you said, people want attention, right? If you go on a trip with someone, you're probably thinking we're going to hang out together and do stuff together, and if you're going to play poker purely to try to make as much money as possible by sitting at the poker table and grinding it out, it's probably not ideal to have someone else who's there, who you want to give attention to, who also, like, they want your attention. So it's like a strain, and it's difficult. So I tell you to make vacations, make work time. Scott Shore, good morning. Two favorite people. Hello from Birmingham. Good morning. Stay safe.
I guess that would make him our great uncle.
Our great uncle. Yeah. His son's our uncle. He's our great uncle. Where was this? Why did we decide to stay in New York City? when we could live places with a much lower cost of living, access to live games, basically a way better life for a professional poker player. Why are we here?
I feel like you submitted this question.
I didn't, but...
I'm from New York. This is where I started my career. My parents are still here, so it's a large part of why we stay here.
Yes.
And Jonathan is nice enough to make that accommodation for us.
Have you ever read any of my poker books?
No.
Remember how you started reading one time?
John offered to let me help proofread one of his early books, and...
The first one, when I didn't know how to write very well.
And first of all, I don't really know poker, so to have me... But I think he more wanted me to look at it for, like, grammar and sentence construction. And second of all, I was making too many comments on each page that it was taking me forever to get through, and he wasn't interested in seeing all of that writing, so he took it away from me.
She gave me back the first chapter, and, like, the whole thing was covered in red. I was like, oh, I can't write very well.
It's hard when someone speaks and writes in a voice that's different from you and has a sense of grammar that's different from you, and there isn't like a baseline understanding of what it should look like. So it was not a good fit for me to be his editor.
Let's see. How old are when we discussed... Wait. I think we're trying to say here, how long were we together before we decided to live together?
How old were we when we started as a couple?
Read the question asked. I can't read very well. I'm reading other questions.
Well, I think I just did. How old had you when you started as a couple?
How old was I? Well, we've been together, 11 years? 10 years?
10 years. So we met January 2010. So I was a month shy of turning 28.
That makes me, I guess, 25 or 24 or something.
And I guess you would have been 25. You had just turned 25 the prior month.
Correct.
So
we were youngins, young, dumb kids.
And then we got married 5 years later. So I was 33. And
guess
you
that
were
made me
30.
30.
Yeah.
Robbie, good morning. Hope you're having a great day. We made 50,000 followers on YouTube today. Did you know that?
Congratulations. Thanks, everyone.
50,000 goal. I have a bet by the end of the year that we can get to
amazing.
100,000. So we have to double between now and the end of the year. Let's make it happen. Click like, click subscribe, share this with your friends.
That would be amazing.
It actually does help. Do I ever plan on playing Foxwoods again? I don't know. They have these $2,500 tournaments, like you say. But is that really worth getting up and traveling and going for 3 or 4 days? I have a lot of stuff to do at this point in life. And I'd rather be with my wife and kids.
They have good walking trails there and a good David Burke restaurant.
They have an arcade.
I don't remember the arcade.
We played at the arcade. They had an arcade.
Oh, is that where we got the dog?
Yeah.
Yeah. They did have an arcade.
They have an arcade. They have a David Burke restaurant. It was really good. Not last time I went, but like, I guess 7 years ago. 7 years ago was really good.
It's been a very long time since we've been there.
It's actually funny. I was deep in a tournament. I think it was...
That was the... Oh.
It was the time I took 7th place in the main event. I was there with one of my friends, and every day we would go to David Burke, whatever it's called, the nice restaurant there, and we would flip a coin to see who had to pay for the dinner. And he lost every single dinner flip, and then I busted him from the tournament in like 12th place. That was
the
funny.
last time we went there was also Halloween weekend, so after we were done with the tournament, we were driving by Mystic, Connecticut, and it had like a cute little town center, so we stopped by to like get lunch or something, and in the town square, they basically had all these little shops and all of these kids dressed in their costumes doing trick-or-treating across all the stores, so we just said, oh, well, we'll just join in. So we started walking into all of the stores with the kids, and every store was perfectly welcoming and had a really nice attitude about the fact that we were adults not dressed up, walking around asking for candy, except for one store that told us that, we really shouldn't be there. And that store, ironically, happened to be a candy store.
It's true.
Which had plenty of inventory to go around.
Something else I think is important in the relationship is spontaneity and just finding fun things to do and doing them together and not being... so rigid, Like, I think a lot of people think they must do these specific things. Like, have your child's life planned out already, whenever they're 3 years old. And, like, we're gonna live life, we're gonna have fun.
To be fair, I don't think we're very spontaneous.
But a little bit. Like, we were just driving and we saw a cool town with a cool thing happening, so we stopped and joined in, right?
Yeah.
We're not, like, the most spontaneous people ever, but...
Not by a long shot.
I think we are generally happy together. Are we happy together?
Yes, of course.
A lot of couples aren't happy together. I don't know if you know this.
No, I'm very happy with you.
You're always on the upswing or the downswing, one of the two. I think we're kind of on the upswing still, maybe.
At worst, it's a plateau.
At worst, it's a plateau. Exactly. We may just be at the peak. Who knows? I'm not sure. Let's see. Do we have any pets? Well, we have 2 children. One's named James and one is named Thomas. They are 3 years old and 1 year old.
By the way, there's someone on your comments or stream that's called Jamie Thomas.
Oh, yeah?
Has our kids' names.
Jamie Thomas. You stole my kids' names. That's okay.
And wife. James Amy Thomas.
James Amy Thomas. Oh, my gosh. That's got to be a fake name.
Wait, and it still begins with J for Jonathan, too. It's all of our names, all wrapped up into one.
It's all of your names. Read your hand, please. Well, believe it or not, it's hard to read stuff on Instagram. Look at this. I'm scrolling backwards, trying to find your poker hand here.
Well, why don't you just ask them to repost it?
Yeah, repost it. I can't even find it. It got
Repost your poker hand.
Repost your poker hand, and I'll do it.
James is his real name.
Nice.
Fantastic.
How are Amy's poker skills? Amie has been on the World Poker Tour one time at a final table of a major charity poker tournament in New York City. She was there with Eric Seidel, David Einhorn, lots of strong players, and that was fun. And she also won one recently. She beat Will the Thrill. Son, heads up.
That wasn't really the answer. That's the question he asked is how are the skills? The skills are actually pretty terrible.
The skills are great. She's final table in a major one. She's been on TV playing poker, and she won the last tournament she played.
Yeah.
Last 2 tournaments you played, you final tabled and won.
That's true. And I didn't really want to go to either of them.
Oh, goodness. That's how it goes. I would tell all of you, don't lose sleep over poker hands. I think an important skill you must master to get good at poker, maybe life too a little bit, I'm probably better at this than you, is to let stuff go quickly, especially if you can't do anything about it. Try to learn something from it. Try to do better in the future. Try to make good decisions that will impact your life beneficially, but also don't dwell over things for forever, because that will just drive you nuts.
The problem is how do you know when something is worth dwelling on?
It's never worth dwelling on. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Well, that's where John and I probably differ the most in our personal approach to life. Is that looks like I have a little thing coming out of my head. By the way,
a trophy. It's like a guitar pick coming out of your head.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
That's what it's supposed to be.
John never thinks anything is dwelling on, and I think too much is worth dwelling on. So.
Let's see.
Did I play well when I played the charity tournaments?
Yeah. You were aggressive. The opponents folded too much, and you won. Do I like Gary Vaynerchuk? I do like his work. It's good.
Gary V!
Gary V, there you go. Do you find it surreal how much money Jonathan plays for when he makes a big cash? Well, Jonathan hasn't made a big cash in a long time. Yes. Do you find it surreal the amount of money that is played for, or not really?
I didn't realize buy-ins were so big, and so many. I didn't realize there were so many tournaments to play, and so many, and what the buy-ins were. In the beginning, 10 years ago, I was surprised. Now I'm kind of desensitized to it. So.
To be fair, I don't think I'm not actively telling you every single update day to day. Oh my God, I lost X amount of money this day, or I won X amount of money this day.
It's even worse than I could have imagined.
Oh, it's way worse. It's way worse. It's way worse. We're swinging. Oh goodness. I do think it's important to. I think what a lot of people do is I know not to associate poker loss or poker wins with highs or lows in life to some extent. Yet. I think a lot of people who are not really into it may not necessarily know that. I think if you win $1 million, you should go out and celebrate and throw a party. And they think if you lose $100K, you should feel like the worst human ever. And I don't really think you should feel either of those things. I think you should just show up and play great. I'm not very good at celebrating successes, though. So maybe that's because my whole life is a celebration. I'm not sure. I just try to enjoy myself and have fun. And it's not like I'm unhappy most days, right? I don't know. It's a weird thought process where I think a lot of people are just kind of very unsure about what they're doing, and they never really feel very comfortable with what they are doing. But I guess I kind of do, win or lose. And if win or lose, I'm happy. I don't need comfort in those times when things are going poorly, and I also probably don't need much congratulations when things are going well. I don't know. Is that crazy to think?
I think that's part of you not being very result-oriented. You focus more on the process of things. Am I playing right? Am I playing well? Am I playing smart? Am I getting ahead? And, once that tournament's done, you catch up on sleep and go back to work the next day. So I think that's just, how you generally approach things.
Quick lesson on juggling, just for Joe. Step number 1, get an item, take it from this hand, throw it to this hand. Get to where you can do that without missing, okay? Step number 2, get 2 items. Get to where you can throw them back and forth, no problem, right? Get to where you can do that, then add in a third, you're good to go. Do 1 first.
I can't even do 1 without my hand. I think you missed actually a key piece of it.
What?
Is that your hand shouldn't actually be moving around looking for the item. The hands stay fixed.
And keep your eyes kind of up.
And that's what I miss. See, I can't keep my hands fixed. I mean, I need to practice at it, but I can't even keep my hands in the same place.
When you throw the item as well, your eyes should be up here, kind of, to where you're never really looking down. You should know where to put your hand, slight movements, by where it is in the sky.
And so my problem is even if I master the throwing one thing, once I add a second thing, my hands
hey, you did it.
Yeah, I did it. Now I did it. My hands are going everywhere, and so I'll never be able to add in a third.
All right.
Not never, but without a substantial amount of practice.
Dean says, can I read your hand, please? We already asked you. Please repost the hand because I can't find it. It gets buried on Instagram. Instagram's tough to read the comments. If you want to make sure your comment gets read, go to pokercoaching.com/YouTube because there I can actually scroll up and down very, very easily. And you can see everybody else's comments while you're sitting here instead of just our pretty faces. Let's see.
You do have a pretty face.
Oh, thank you. You have a pretty face, too.
Thank you.
It's important to like the look of your partner because you have to look at them a lot. Do you believe if I was a compulsive gambler when I met him after 4 years, he decided to apply for rehab, would you believe he could pursue the dream of being a pro? I have no clue what this even means.
Do you believe if Jonathan was a compulsive gambler after 4 years he decided
I'm not a compulsive gambler.
He could still pursue his dream? I guess this is a question more of if you had started off more as a gambler.
Listen, I think if
would I have accepted you as a pro, assuming you showed enough change? That's a pretty loaded question, but I will say this. Do you talk to people about?
I mean, I have had times where I've gambled very hard in life.
So can I talk about that?
I mean, I guess.
So there was a period of time where I guess we weren't engaged yet. We were dating, maybe a year or 2 into dating. We were a year or 2 into dating. Can I say what you were doing?
Yeah.
And John was into sport betting.
I had a great system to beat sports.
Allegedly. That was failing a lot. Anyway, he was not telling me how much he was betting or how much he was losing. And
Big numbers.
It got to be a pretty substantial number, unfortunately, and he felt like he was actually getting into a hole, and it was no longer responsible. And he told me about it, and he told me about it. He told me he was going to stop. He told me he was going to start talking to someone about it, about why he was doing it. This is when he was still based in Vegas and hadn't sold his house and fully moved to New York yet. So he was living in Vegas at the time. Maybe you were there for the World Series when all of this happened.
Yeah, and it was a bad summer at the World Series. I feel like I was losing every poker tournament.
Anyway, so that was
it was a bad summer.
So that was kind of tough, and I was really sad about it and crying and a lot because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if we maybe shouldn't be together. Is this, your worst fears about dating?
Smart questions.
Your worst fears about dating a poker player, right? Is this someone who's a real consummate professional who I can build a life with, or is this someone who's just going to squander all of our money, and make life very hard for us? And and all of those fears were coming back up now in this moment when he shared, the truth with me. I think he even had to borrow money from his parents to pay some of.
I don't think that's true.
I
had to sell some gold.
But I think also, I think maybe they offered. But
yeah.
Anyway, so it was.
My dad was so sweet. He offered to give me a few $1,000. So I don't need a few $1,000.
It was a mess. It was really sad and depressing. I was devastated. I didn't know if it meant we shouldn't be together. Does it mean we
I want to make this clear.
Together?
Slow down. It's not like I lost all my money. We still had hundreds of $1,000s in the retirement account.
It was a significant amount of money.
It was a downswing. It was a big downswing.
And if it was indicative of what he would be like as a partner, it was a really bad. It was not something you'd want to build a life together on.
Correct.
Anyway, so I talked to my dad because I'm tell him everything. And we talked about it, and I think, what we kind of decided was is if you agreed that you weren't going to do it anymore and you were going to talk to someone, get help, then we'll just kind of move forward. And if it ever happened again, then that's it. We would be over. And
that's when I learned to not talk to Amie about gambling wins and losses. So the question was essentially...
Here's a real question. Have you sport bet since then?
Mildly, very little. Okay. Nothing like before. Yeah. So. What are we talking about here? Oh, if I was a degenerate gambler, though, listen, if you have problems with being a degenerate gambler, I would tell you to just, get out of it, honestly. That's kind of the answer I would tell you. That's a smart answer. That's the answer that will keep you out of trouble. Now, you may have a better successful poker career than potentially having a job, but you could also wreck yourself. And I think if you know you're already predetermined to potentially wreck yourself with something like gambling or alcohol or drugs or anything, right? If you know that you're kind of predisposed to going off the deep end on that, I would tell you, don't go where it's slippery and you won't slip. I don't know. Is that how you feel?
Yeah, easier said than done, but yes.
Just don't go to the casino ever again. Stop. If you're a sports bettor, stop watching sports. A good cure for my sports betting: stop watching sports and stop going to places that have a sports book. And don't ever bet on your phone or anything like that. Ace 8 offsuit, middle position opens 2.25 big blinds, 32 big blinds effective. You call, then the big blind comes King 8 2. You have middle pair. You have the ace of clubs. You check call, turns an 8. You check. You could lead here. Anyway, you check. You bets 3x pot. Well, you don't have any chips left. That's fine. You lose. No. Should you fold the nuts? No, don't fold the nuts. Amie, do you know that if you have the nuts, you should not fold it?
Never fold the nuts.
Yeah, don't fold the nuts. Don't even fold the effective nuts. What's the nickname for John? Jonathan.
Do we have nicknames?
Not really.
You call me Sweet Pea.
You're my Sweet Pea, yeah.
And used to call me Honeysuckle as a joke. It didn't really. I guess we used to kind of not call each other penguin, but we used to kind of use a penguin emblem. We had penguins as our cake toppers at our wedding, but I don't think we really have nicknames for each other.
Nah, not really.
What about for our kids? What do you call our kids?
Jamesy Pie.
Jamesy Pie, apple of our eye.
And Mr. Thomas and Sir Thomas.
Sir Thomas.
What do I call Thomas? I call him something else. But it's Mr. Sweet.
Big T.
Big T.
Big T. He calls him Big T. We thought James was a big kid. Thomas turned out to be bigger. He's been bigger since birth. He's taller than James was at this age.
And James was in the 99th percent,
the
top 1%.
But his face looks smaller. His face is longer. James's face was much more round, so he just looked bigger in his face. But Thomas, amazingly, seems to be.
James looks like a baby, and Thomas looks like an alien. Can we show Thomas more on the show? The problem is Thomas naps.
He naps at 9 o'clock.
From 9 until 10:30.
So until he grows out of his morning nap, he won't be able to be on the show. But good news for all of you, bad news for us. You'll probably be growing out of that nap within a few months.
Research shows that chess, music, and martial arts helps kids. Well, we listen to tons of music. We wrestle a bunch.
My dad is starting to play chess with James.
So there you go. All right, we have to go. Instagram tells us we have 2 minutes left. Hope you all have a great day. I just released a new course, Mastering the Fundamentals. Check that out at pokercoaching.com/fundamentals. It's completely for free. Just try the first 5 parts. And if you get through the first 5 parts in the first 5 days, you're entered to win $500 cash. Because, I realize times are tough. You might as well give some money away. How's that make you feel? You want to give away some money?
Yeah!
All right, good. So go to pokercoaching.com/fundamentals. And do it. Learn the fundamentals.
Thanks for having me.
Going to be a really good course if you know someone who's very new to poker, because the first few episodes are the basics, the rules of the game and the things you must understand if you want to have any chance of success. And if the content at pokercoaching.com may be a little bit too difficult for you, this is an introduction to that to make sure you are up to speed on terminology, how to play decently well, etc. So check it out at pokercoaching.com/fundamentals. Anything else that you want to say, Amie?
No, just thanks for having me. Really appreciated getting to do this every once in a while. Hopefully I didn't drive away too much traffic.
That's okay. If you enjoyed this, click like, click subscribe. Amie will not be here on Monday. She has to go back to work. I have to go back to work.
I'm working today, just the kids aren't here, so I was able to pop in. I'm working every day.
Yes, you're a professional. All right. Thanks again, everyone, for being here. Have a great day. Kevin, Peter, Louis Philippe, Serge, everyone here. Thanks for being here.
Stay safe.
Stay safe. Talk to you again on